Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. So, let's see what happens. Tulsi Gabbard criminally refers two intel officials to the Department of Justice for prosecution of leaks to Washington Post and New York Times. Now, I'm only bringing this article out because I want to see some arrests. I want to see some people get locked up that's doing this mess. You know, real crimes, not some bull crap that Eugene Carroll made up. Not some bull crap that corrupt Letitia James made up, who, by the way, probably, allegedly, more than likely committed the crimes that she accused other people of doing. Said that from the get-go whenever I seen all that stuff come out about, Letitia James saying, I'm going after Trump. He's too male, too pale, too stale. He committed mortgage fraud. We're going to go after him. Even though he didn't commit mortgage fraud, I was like, you know what? I would be surprised if we find out that Letitia James has committed some kind of mortgage fraud. That was several years ago. I made that accusation just because it just seemed legitimate, considering the fact that the way that they project things that they do onto other people. So, boop, there you are. Where if you've been keeping up with the recent events, that's something that's been going on right recently. She's in some hot water for, what probably wouldn't be such a big deal if she hadn't done this to somebody else. This would be just a minimal considering, but, so, back to the whole thing. Tulsi Gabbard is now, Department of Justice, where you at? And there was a few other criminal referrals that were brought to the table by some other people. For the life of me, can't recall those recently that I just did videos on. I have to go back and look, but I'm like, okay. Okie dokie. There is this going on as well too, but Department of Justice files terrorism charges for the first time against a Tren Aragua leader. Well, that is something. It's not exact. I mean, that's a good start. Because but that's not these high-level politicians. These ones that have facilitated these crimes are the ones that we really need to go after. Oh, this is a good start. Don't get me wrong. I'm happy that this is a thing, because what that will do is kind of like legitimize what Trump is trying to tell people for the longest time, that we've got a criminal organization, a cartel, a foreign enemy, a foreign threat to our nation that has been imported, aside from what China's been doing. That's going on. That'd be next. We've got to start going after some of the criminal organizations that China has brought into the United States and operating. I often wonder, like, some of the food plants, the power grid failures, recent battery plants in California going up in flames, all kind of these, or battery storage facilities where they do their solar power stuff, infrastructure, failing, wildfires that have been going on. We say, oh, it's the homeless people, whatever, because it's happening in remote areas. But are these actions that are being brought forth to us by some of these gangs that have been brought to the United States to cause this kind of issue, to work for the left, to do their bidding? And it would be an easy cloak, because we wouldn't even know these people were here because they weren't even accounted for. You got to remember all of the boats and all the different ways that we've seen. There's been camera footage of, like, places where the shoreline meets in California and Texas, where boats just come pulling up, and you'll see 10 or 15 people that'll just they'll run a boat right up on the shore, and they'll jump out and take off running, and an SUV picks them up, and that's it. There's no, well, who were these people, and how did they get there? Where did they even come from? Because they didn't take that boat all the way from wherever they were at. They were obviously brought to an undisclosed location not far off the coast that couldn't be seen from people on the shore, and then they were boated to the, they drove these stolen boats. Well, who stole the boats? Where are they, It's easy to steal boats, by the way, most of the time. Half time it's a universal key that cranks these things. But, that's a big question. And let's check in on what's going on in Africa.
Uba pizza why you know wallahi mun damu mun fika an fika damuwa hey me say be ma be na wo pizza wallahi wo be any business hey buwa wai Allah.
Yikes. Yo, Jasmine Crockett, if you want to go back there, you're welcome to it. Have at it. They're waiting on you. You can go back home. You don't have to pick cotton over here. Anyways, Tulsi Gabbard, back to her. She's, got 2 criminal referrals to the Department of Justice who really, she needs to step this. She started a Christian, and like a task force so that, for the attack on Christianity. I mean, thanks, but like, you wouldn't have to do that if you didn't bow down to people like Israel and stuff. I'm just saying. And people like Ilhan Omar that inject their ideology and want Muslim Brotherhood and Sharia law. You wouldn't have to do all that Christian task force stuff. But, like I said earlier, I kind of go all over the place, guys. So watching this channel is probably a little bit, it's an ADD stream. So I'm just, I kind of have a stream of conscience. But Tulsi Gabbard, she said that there's 2 criminal referrals. One more on the way, by the way. And it has to do with ODNI officials that leaked really strategic classified information to like Washington Post and other left-wing media. We say left-wing media because it seems to be that they are a shill for that and, fine and all, but it's just dangerous. Left-wing, well, any biased media is kind of, can find yourself in a little bit of a place. I know I'm biased a little bit. I'm a Trump supporter and I'm conservative, so you're probably going to have a little bit of bias here, but I'm probably the lesser of the 2 evils. So hopefully we can pull it together and make something happen good. But anyways, when you're biased towards the left, typically, scooping babies out and throwing them in the trash and, cutting off your kid's genitalia, that's a big, got to do on their end of the thing. Something just tells me I'm on the right side of things. Hoping for the best there. We'll see how it all plays out. But she says she's got 1 more criminal referral on the way. That's pretty heavy. Now, like I said, Pam Bondi, what you going to do? You going to start another task force to fortify something that's already written in the Constitution that shouldn't have to be an executive thingy or whatever you want to call it? Some task force George Soros, Pam Bondi. Task force the Alex Soros. Go. Hey, I'll tell you what. If you really wanted to put forth a task force, how about a task force against corrupt judges? Start looking into the things that they're into. That would be an easy way. Instead of impeaching these judges, you could just get them to either step down or be arrested where they can't do this anymore, because I will almost bet a whole dollar that people like Boseberg and that awful-looking, atrocious woman who's trying to block Trump from suing Perkins Coie, because that's the DNI, deep state, operative, legal people that do all the bidding for like the Clintons and the Obamas and the Soroses. That's we do this pro bono. We'll write out your freedom of speech laws. Yeah, I bet you would. You've got this activist judge who's going to try to permanently block anybody, Trump especially, from going after these law firms when it's perfectly legal to. You can take a lawsuit out on anybody. We've seen this. Well, we have seen this, and we've seen Mark Elias, who worked for Perkins Coie at one time, and fat bastard, who's really done a number to our. He's. Of course, well, he was his court rulings were in court. Yeah, because he had the judges that are. That's why I'm saying you need to do your research, Pam Bondi, on these judges. Have a task force go into these corrupt judges' background. Do as much legal inquiry without having to pull warrants and find out where they're getting their money from, who they're talking to. I'm sure there's plenty of public records you could pull. And you could actually eliminate a lot of these activist judges from doing what they and send a message to the rest. And you might actually mess up and have to arrest one of them. I don't know. I'm just saying, what are you afraid of? And I can understand there's a lot of pressure there, but in my mind, I'm sitting there thinking, we've got criminal referrals already set out for a couple of people. We need some more. We need to see the arrests start to take place. And we need to see, These just nothing for the left to go digging into everything that our side does to figure out all the ins and outs, the dirt, the everything. But we can't do that to them for some reason. Is it not ethical? And if you're worried about ethics at this point, you just throw that out the window because we lost ethics a long time ago. Speaking of ethics, let's check in on the left real quick. I don't know if you remember this or not, but Carmelo Anthony has this guy who's been like a handler for him and all, and he's basically, there's a backstory behind the dude. I'm going to show you some of his, this content creator right here. This is, so Carmelo Anthony has a son, we know, who was tragically not with us anymore because of an altercation that took place on they say not school grounds, but it was a school event. Anyways, long story short, this, the son who is not with us anymore had a father who attended the press conference that Carmelo Anthony's father and mother were at that was just a disaster. Well, that spokesperson ran that father off and made it and politicized this. And this guy's well known, the dude that's the handler for Carmelo Anthony. He will be well known. We were trying to make this well known, but he's an advocate and an active member of like Antifa and BLM. He was charged with a lot of crimes against people. He did some harm to a really young child that caused brain damage. He's done physical harm to females. He's been caught for wire fraud, money laundering, and multiple arrests. So let me show you. She's going to go through his little back sheet right here. Check this out. Check this out.
Baby, a 2-year-old child causing that child brain damage. You have a rap sheet a mile long. This is what you're mad about. Right here. This is what you're angry about. Right here.
This is that dude's rap sheet right here. It's a felony injury to a child in 09, forging a check in 09, leading a policeman high-speed chase in 09, stealing a car in 09, falsely claiming a car was stolen. In other words, he tried to. It must have been some kind of borrowed his vehicle, but offensive physical contact, probation violations, felony theft of property between $2,500 and $3,000. That was his wire fraud charges. Felony assault causing serious bodily injury in 2019. Misdemeanor assault. Continuous violence against the family in 2019. Theft undated. Making a false police report. Again, this was undated and ending as an evading arrest. By the way, that same guy, this is him right here. Let me see here. I'm going to show you.
That led to the father being here.
He's
Political
post of my
operatives
tweets.
Motivating this family with hate. Carmelo Anthony posted on.
It's that guy speaking for him with that red tie on that has all these charges right here. And he's also was in charge. It was heading off a rally or a protest that ended up being extremely violent, and 4 police officers no longer are with us because of this guy. So, and also he's part of violence against family and some other charges that he received was when he was intimidating a jury by going out and having violent protests in front of these people's houses to intimidate for a certain outcome of a court case. This is the guy who's representing Carmelo Anthony, who right now has financially benefited from his crimes tremendously. And it's not necessarily that I'm upset because it's a black man that done it to a white person. What I'm upset about the whole deal is I don't want any harm from anybody. I don't want black people hurting white people. I don't want white people hurting black people. I don't want Mexicans beating up Asians. I don't want all 4 of the groups getting together and beating each other up. I want everybody to get along. What I have a problem with is the fact that there's preferential treatment on the judicial side to create a narrative to spark a race war to get society in a situation where they could possibly have something kinetic pop off, which would then call for martial law and give Jamie Raskin all the necessary components to where he could do exactly what he said he wanted to do whenever Trump was elected. And this is something that John Podesta's talked about. So they're desperately trying to find this one aspect of some part of society that they can exploit so that people can go absolutely nuts. We're watching this happen in real time. It upsets me to see a preferential treatment from one side or the other, but this is all strategic, and it's unfortunate that we have to be very cordial in the fact that bad things have to happen to one side so that we don't have this thing get worse than what it is. I don't want it to happen. I don't want anything like this to happen. I just don't like what's happening to one group of people because it's a narrative trying to be set by the deep state players that's trying to trigger society to some sort of breakdown or fall that they are strategically planning on so that they can do harmful things to us, which is way worse than what can happen if one white dude's not with us anymore. That's all. Just, this just should be teaching people in society to be very, very careful and aware of their surroundings. Thank you so very much for watching. And I'll leave you with this.
They left without me. They do this every year. Why? Doesn't anyone love me? Isn't there anyone who cares about Sid the Sloth?